Hey, good afternoon. It is 5:33 p.m. It is June 28th, Monday afternoon. And so I decided to come on here and make a video, kind of an update of what's going on in my life. So really not much has changed. A lot of mental work is going on up here. I'm trying to, get over the anxiety and a lot of the depression of what happened to me. And I've been thinking a lot about, some of the topics that I had read a few years ago. I had mentioned in my video before that I believe myself to be asexual. And the reason why I believe this is because I don't really have sexual attraction to people. Now, when I was younger, I had my crushes, and, I think that's pretty normal. And I think people are really confused by asexuality. And I'm that kind of person. I don't like movements, because I consider myself to be a very independent person and somebody who, I don't know. There's a lot of people who make protests or they like to draw attention to themselves. And I'm not saying that awareness issues are not important, because I do see the importance of it. But I always wanted to avoid being a part of a crowd of where I didn't necessarily believe with everything that they, stood for or whatever. Because sometimes you might affiliate with a group and you might agree on some key points, but you don't agree on, like, I would say maybe 80-90% of anything else, right? So I don't really like to get involved with movements, groups, or whatever. I like to have my own independent thought. And I remember in the past I would read about asexuality because since I would say 2000, actually earlier than the 2000s, when I started thinking about this is because when I started thinking about my lack of interest in, like, relationships, like long-term relationships, it happened, I would say, around 1995, 96. It started to, okay? Like, I still continued to every once in a while date somebody, but they never lasted long. And if I did go out and had a nice time, I never made a real big effort to follow up or anything like that. So, I remember I would date people and then I would drop them for what most people thought were like frivolous reasons. Like, I remember this one guy brushed his teeth in my kitchen sink, and to me, I just wanted him out. Like, I just didn't want to see him again, blah blah blah. So I always had these, like, I was overly nitpicky, and I think the main reason is because I prefer to be alone. I don't have, like, this huge sex drive, and I do think that, I have always associated love with, like, an emotional fulfillment, or love with an emotional fulfillment, a deep platonic relationship. Sex was something that was always kind of secondary. And I also had, obviously, even though I wasn't really aware of it, I think I also dealt with sexual trauma issues. Now, I do think that a lot of asexuals will say things like, well, we're not, there is a difference between, celibacy and people who are asexual. And the difference is, like, people who are celibate, for example, they desire sex. They desire sex. They think about it probably as much as the majority of people who are sexual creatures, but they refrain from doing it, whether that be for moral issues, religious issues, family obligations, or whatever. So they, kind of refrain or from having sex with other people or themselves, because some people do that kind of stuff too, right? But so they don't really, they, just don't participate, and that would be considered celibacy. But for people who don't really have that strong desire for sexual, interaction, they don't do it because they're not motivated to do something. I don't have, like, these hidden sexual desires that I want to act out, or that I feel I'm completely unfulfilled. I think we live in a pretty sexual society where people are very open about it. I mean, sometimes they're so open about it that I do find it repulsive, okay? Because some people are just so up in your face with their sexuality, okay? But but I do know this, that if I was one and I was seeking a sexual partner, I would not be afraid to express that and go out and look for it if that was what I was looking for. Okay, and so I think, growing up, in my mind, like, when I would have crushes on boys, or, I would think that they were good looking, Okay, and then oftentimes I would make up their personalities, and I didn't realize that I was making up their personalities, but I was. Like in my mind, I would make up what they like and what they do and the things that they say. I would do this, right? And so you get carried away with these little, what do you call it, crushes or whatever. And I would put these people on pedestals, like the guy from like high school. I used to think that he was like the best person in the world. The guy's a fucking murderer, as far as I'm concerned, right? Okay, but this is the kind of stuff that would go on in my mind. Did I ever fantasize about me having sex with these people? Not really. What I was more in awe of, or what I was kind of intimidated in my mind is because I thought these people were like in some way intelligent, where they were free thinkers or whatever. Because the way that they expressed themselves, they kind of made me think, well, maybe we would get along because I'm a free thinker. Even back when I was really young, I was free thinking. Like I was like really, I had my own opinions and I had my own views of life and I believed in them. You know what I mean? And I've always dealt with persecution. So persecution, me being persecuted really isn't that new. I just never thought somebody would actually threaten my life, okay? But so when people talk about like, because I have watched, some information on asexuality throughout the course of me kind of bouncing around with these ideas in my head throughout the years, and I do know that I was corresponding with somebody who's pretty big in the asexual community, and we were communicating for like a short while, and then of course they sabotaged that relationship too. But even when back then, I've started thinking, because I understand people have their views. Some people look at marriage as sacred. Some people, think that a man and a woman, when a woman gets to a certain age, they start looking at her weird, like, how come you're not married, blah, blah, blah. And I did get married, okay? Obviously, that was a big mistake, right? But and I got married to my ex-husband at that time. Mainly because I enjoyed the relationship that we had, like the joking, the goofiness, the foolish jokes, that sort of stuff. And this is what I find fulfilling. It's like I find someone that I could, talk to and communicate with, joke with, be serious with, and have like these flexible conversations with. That's what stimulates me. Okay, so, but I usually prefer being with women who are able to hold a conversation and whatever. So some people would say, well, because you prefer friendships, well, I guess this whole asexuality thing, because there's different orientations within these groups, okay? And I don't fully understand it all either, because like I said, I would listen to a lot of it when I was younger, and like, when I first started bouncing this around, I knew that I wasn't interested in sex. I kind of thought of myself as asexual, but I never like chiseled it down to where like I had this definition as to how I classified. Like, apparently there's names like aromantic and all these other names that they have, and I guess some people would say I'm a gray. I don't know. Like maybe it's because of my limited interest in whatever, but I have my preferences as far as who I choose to associate with. I would say I prefer to associate with women. Am I sexually attracted to women? No. I don't like genitalia area. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm explaining like why. I don't like genitals. I'm like weird about that stuff. And like I said, I did deal with sexual trauma when I was younger. I know, little kids do weird stuff, and some people are like playing doctor and they're curious, okay? But now that I'm older, I'm looking back now and I'm starting to see that, the very fact that my ex-family, my blood relations supported what my ex-husband was doing is because they must be incest sympathizers or practice incest themselves. So this wasn't just people like playing doctor with me and doing stuff like that. What was taking place when I was younger was molestation, and something that I didn't like. Okay, and I'm dead set against it. You know what I mean? And when I think about those sort of things, yeah, I did. I must not have really thought about it. I maybe, I overlooked it, but kind of shrugged my shoulders, because like I know kids are curious, okay? They do those sort of things. But the more I think about it, and I am repulsed by sex. I don't like it. Okay, now, am I in a position where I feel like, well, when I get in my 70s and my 80s, am I going to be sitting here, or when I get close to my deathbed, am I going to be sitting here thinking about, man, I wish I would have had more sex? No. I'm going to say I wish I would have had more female friends, more of a female network of friends who enjoy doing the same sort of activities with me, who enjoy launching some of my crazy ideas that I come up with and doing these sort of things. That's what I think I miss out on. And because of the gang stalking, it has really prevented me from having a social life because, you know, they pretty much control all the strings, you know, and people see me how they want me to be seen. And it is difficult because, like, when I know one of the conversations that I've had with this other particular person who would do asexual videos is she did this video about things that people say to asexual people. And this is where it gets crazy because most people say things like, oh, well, you'll find the right person, or, you know, it just takes some time. You just haven't found, or there was even some people, and I remember experiencing this myself, when I would try to explain that I'm not interested in that, I would encounter men who would try to fix me, or want to fix me, or make me change my mind, and then thinking that they were so great in bed that I'm going to just, like, you know, suddenly change my mind. And I really find that kind of repulsive. Okay, so all my life I just tried to eke by. And I had my crushes. My crushes were purely emotional. I don't, if like I said, I know that people are very open about their sexuality, and I think that, and there's nothing to be ashamed of if you wanted to have sex. If I have the sexual desire to screw everybody that I came encounter with, I would see no shame in saying that I wanted to do that. Because that's how open people are about their sexuality. You know what I mean? I would feel no shame in doing so. So it's not. I mean, I just really do find it distasteful. And what happened to me, like when I felt like my life was being threatened, and I also wanted to bring this up, because, and please excuse me if I'm kind of retracting and doing all this stuff, because like I said to you, I get, when I have these ideas about videos, I know that organization is everything, okay? But this is not like a presentation. This is not really anything, you know, what I call educational or anything like that. It's more informative. It's an update on what's going on with me. But I was thinking about when people do announce to, or in a conversation, okay? Like, you know, I know that because of during my targeting, part of the reason, okay, I would believe that my targeting / gang stalking / human trafficking had a lot to do with race. I think it had a lot to do with religion, and it also had a lot to do with the fact that I remember talking to a particular person at work in privacy and talking about how, you know, I really think a lot of people don't particularly like sex. There's a lot of women who don't like sex. A lot of them. And a lot of them feel obligated to because they're married and they got to keep up with the Joneses, and they don't want to put themselves in a position where they have to explain themselves. And I know it is hard because you do deal with persecution. And the thing is that I do understand why now some people, some mature people, want to talk about their asexuality because they feel maybe that it might help them, might prevent them from being a victim of bullying, because you can get bullied over that. Just like how I was dehumanized by people setting up fake job interviews, and a lot of these fake job interviews were job interviews that just so happened to, you know, I'd be interviewed by somebody who was pretty good looking. Now, I'm not an idiot, okay? I know what a good looking person looks like, and I appreciate being around good looking people. I really do, okay? And I noticed that, okay? But when I notice somebody who's good looking, in my back of my mind, I'm thinking this person should be a model, or this person should be in a magazine. He's got those GQ looks. He's got this sort of stuff. But I don't sit there and think, gosh, I want to go to bed with him. I don't think that. You know what I mean? What I want is I want friends, okay? But anyway, I think when I was talking earlier about some people, I used to kind of roll my eyes at the people who would talk about their asexuality and how they wanted to be understood. I do understand that perhaps maybe they are trying to prevent being bullied. They're trying to stand up for their rights, because if people don't understand it, just like in this situation, when I told this particular person, and then they probably spread it all over the place, and then they spread all over town and everything else. And what they want to do is they want to put it to the test. They want to put it to the test. And what I mean by that is bring you in for job interviews with a nice, good-looking guy, and that's all very fine, well and good. Why they put this to the test and experiment and see if which you're going to react and how you're going to do this, but they're keeping you out of a job in the meantime. What they're doing is they're walking on your rights. I have the right to have a job just like anyone else and keep a roof over my head without the threat of, which even shook me even more to my core. The threat of being forced into a marriage with people who have sexual beliefs or practices that I'm appalled by. You see what I mean? So I felt like a gun was being put to my head. So I do know that if people question you and they don't understand something and they want to put it to the test and like get into your personal life and tell other people and spread it all around, this bullying type of stuff that goes on, they will dehumanize you. So the education that I used to kind of scoff at, I do understand, and I'm appreciative of it. Okay, I don't want to be like a major big part of like a movement or anything like that, but I do understand because, like I said, the idea of an asexual person, even if they weren't a person of color, even if they weren't have a particular religious issue or whatever, they could very well be a target of bullying. Mainly because, like I said, people start thinking, okay, I don't believe you. Because most people are either straight or they're gay. Because it's very hard for some people to fathom why a person would not have like a sexual appetite. That's very difficult to wrap around in a lot of people's brains. So they're thinking, well, and then they'll want to poke fun of you, and then they want to find you contradictions in what you're saying. And I think that's one of the reasons why they were trying to bully me, saying, oh, you can't wear nice clothes, you can't wear makeup, can't do your hair, can't do all this other stuff. Because they're like, okay, well, then if you don't have a sexuality, then you can strip who you are and with the things that you enjoy. And they don't go together. You know what I mean? And, well, that's my right to do anyway, but they don't go hand in hand together. And they were also doing it for me to go back to this particular marriage that had a family that practiced incest and stuff like that and did things that I don't agree with. That literally put me in a situation where I was disturbed for a very, very long time, and I still get disturbed when I think about it. You see, I'm not like a lot of other people. Okay, what I want is I want fulfilling relationships. I want friendships that are based on something solid. And I think some people might feel uncomfortable around asexual people because they think we're prudes or we're judging other people for being sexual creatures, and that's not what I'm doing. I understand, some people have great sex lives, with their partner, and some people do it with multiple people. Some people are bisexual, some people are homosexual. I can't get into those sort of things, okay? And yes, I did go to the gay bar when I was younger, whatever, but that's not my thing. And I didn't, pick up on anybody. Oh, I was there for other reasons, okay, back in the day. But I'm not a sexual person. I'm more of an intellectual one. I'm somebody who enjoys the intellectual stimulation. When I was growing up, I believed that love was like this emotional bond. Somebody who cared about you. Somebody, and you could care about them. Like if they're hurting, then you're hurting, and so on and so forth, okay? And that kind of love, like I said, is very rare. Now, I can settle for a relationship, but at the end of the day, if somebody just wants you for sex, and I'm going to tell you what, they can have sex with anybody. That doesn't make you special. That doesn't make you feel loved. It doesn't make you feel cherished. It doesn't. Okay, so I don't place a value on sex. You know what I mean? And I don't, because like anybody can get fucked. Basically, anybody can. But a true person who truly loves you for who you are, the little quirky things that you do, they care about your goals, they care about your dreams, they care about your plans, they love you on an emotional level, a deep emotional level. That's a very rare thing. And I understand that. I don't want to settle for something that's just sexual. And that's what love is for a lot of people. You know what I mean? And I'm not interested in that. And it's very hard to say that because, like I said, people are going to put it to the test, which they already did, and they dehumanize you while they're doing it. So I do understand the importance of trying to educate people and trying to make them understand, this is my life, because people will try to play and toy with your life, even though they have no right to. I have a right to be asexual. I have a right to have a job without the threat of being forced into a marriage. I have the right to do those things, especially being forced into a marriage where I don't want to have sex, especially with somebody who did that and then did that with the chick at the workplace, and then he was doing that with the mom all along. That's so weird, man. So no, I don't. Excuse you. I've gone through some trauma. Okay, I've dealt with some severe trauma. Okay, like somebody literally putting a gun to my head. That's exactly how that feels. You know. So my thing is I was thinking in the last few days that no, I don't believe in like coming out, making this big deal about it and talking about it or whatever. But I do see also another reason to not just about the bullying thing, but it's more like, you know, how you interact with people and the kind of friendships that I'm looking for. I want platonic relationships, and in the older you get, the more difficult it is to find girlfriends, friends, pals, you know, whatever, because people have their day-to-day life to go through. Okay. It's not like, you know, the days of high school or, you know, the days of your school days where you're bored. Like, hey, you want to go to the park? And you call somebody up and you guys can do something. People have things to do. And a lot of women my age, they are married. Okay, but I'm not. You know, so I choose to look for women who kind of have more time on their hands, people who aren't married. That's not to say I couldn't be friends with, you know, a married woman. It's just that, you know, it's difficult because a lot of women want to be home when their husbands are home and stuff like that. And I don't want to get married. You know what I mean? I don't want to be married. I don't want to be associated with being married. I don't. You know, and I'm just wanting to get over it. And I don't ever want to be somebody bullying me and trying to pressure me into something that traumatizes me. Okay? I am, seriously, I don't like to press the issue. And I also like to say that, this is my life, which I have a right to live. You know, I know maybe I don't have as much as other people do, but, you know, I'm content. I realize how this world is, how it spins, you know, and I don't look at other people and try to, you know, beat them or compare myself to them or whatever. I just want to be around people who have good morals, you know. I wish I had a good friend who would want to come over and, like, cook. Or somebody who likes to sew, somebody who likes to do arts and crafts, someone who likes the things that I like, music or whatever. Those are the kind of people that I want. And I have the right to be choosy, because when you're around the wrong people, they will abuse you. They will abuse you, guarantee you. Okay, we live in a very abusive society, and they will. You know, and so I do. Like I said, I can't say I agree with everything that people do. I see a lot of movements that I've oftentimes thought were kind of unnecessary. And I don't think that being the asexual movement is unnecessary. Okay. Do I think sometimes maybe some people go over the top with it? On an individual basis, I've seen certain individuals make videos where I think, okay, well, I just don't think that's really important. I don't think that's necessary. Okay. But do I think, you know, you should be the awareness movement is a benefit sometimes? Yeah, because of that issue. Because, like I said, people will toy with you if they don't understand why you're like 40, 50 years old, you're not getting married. Or why is it that you wear makeup and you wear your clothes and stuff like that and you're not looking for a man? And people will roll their eyes. Oh, that's not true. Yes, you are, because you're doing this. Some people love those things. As a matter of fact, I do. I love those things. And they're my pleasure. That's what I find pleasure. There's very little pleasure in this world. Very little. You know what I mean? And I don't find pleasure in other people, obviously, because I've only experienced being around bully people, bullying behaviors, narcissistic behavior. That's pretty much all I've ever known. You know what I mean? So now this is about my life now. This is what I want to do. Because I realize, like, I'm 50 years old and I want to make the next 10 years something that I can be satisfied with. Because I will tell you, 10 years ago, I was miserable because these people were making me miserable. 20 years ago, that's when it really started hitting home. Because, like, these people were slowly but surely gaining headway in my work life that I didn't agree with. You know what I mean? I know they bullied me in school. And it was like, the more I think about this, okay, the more it starts to come together, the more it disturbed me. Okay, there was a lot that disturbed me. It was like the bullying was extreme. Okay, it was extreme, and it was unnecessary, and it was unjustified. You know what I mean? And so at this point in my life, I'm just like, you know what? if I would rather die than have to deal with this bullshit. And I basically said that in one of my videos, and I wasn't lying either, because people can make your life a living hell. And yeah, I do think, yeah, asexuals could very well be a target of somebody's hate crime. You know what I mean? Just like anybody else. If somebody disagrees with you, you could be a victim of a hate crime. You know what I mean? And it is my choice. It's my right as a human being, you know, to live my life the way that I do. You know, and it's hard. It's very hard. You know, I may never find that, you know, perfect gal pal to, you know, hang out with. And the older you get, the more difficult it becomes. And, you know, there's so many little quirky things that I don't really think are significant, but it plays a role, I guess, in the overall theme of things when you're looking for people that you really enjoy. See, I have to think about the dominant clan that came in and bombarded my life and put me in situations where I didn't want to be in, you know. And so it's like, I want out of that bubble. I want to find somebody who likes to read, who likes history, who likes art, who likes, you know, music, those sort of things. You know what I mean? I want a productive friendship instead of like somebody who's talking about sex. And I remember when I used to date every once in a while, I didn't have very many boyfriends. I know people think that I probably did, but I didn't have very many boyfriends. And when I did date, you know, I remember I would just want to talk, and you know, those guys were wanting to do, so they would be like wanting to do stuff. And I remember this one dude was like, man, you talk a lot. In other words, shut up, I want to have sex with you, right? And I'm like, damn, you know, whatever. So I basically told him, you know, look, this is who I am, and I don't really, you know, so it is what it is. And I just kind of want to get on with my life, and I don't want to you know, interact with people who are going to try to sway me, or they got plans for me to meet so and so. It's like, I want to be accepted as who I am. That's what I want to be accepted as. Okay, I don't want my life changing. This is who I am. This is what I enjoy. You know what I mean? And this is, I mean, not much, okay, but these are the kind of people that I would like to get to know. You know, the girl that I was in communication with a few years ago, she stopped talking to me because I believe she slowly became absorbed into the perp chain. You know what I mean? And I realized that they were invading my privacy, and they destroyed a lot of friendships that I made online and people that I knew and everything, because this is the kind of stuff they do. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate because, you know, it's like, and then that leaves people in a state of despair already. I mean, what I will tell you, when people are narcissistic, they are goddamn evil. They will plow through your life and they don't care. They do not care. Okay. And so you know, I don't really talk to anyone. I'm like starting all over again. Okay. And this is what I have to deal with. You know, and there's a few people that I've kept in touch with, you know, and there's a guy who makes videos. He's a targeted individual himself. And, you know, I say hi to him every once in a while. But, you know, it's like, it's difficult because, you know, and I don't want to deal with, I know people want to try to pressure me into, and they did. They pressured me to the point of where I was literally ready to kill myself. Okay? It's not a joke. It's like, leave people the fuck alone. You know what I mean? If they say something, if somebody says I'm asexual or whatever, just believe them. And they're probably not telling you that to shock you or to create a controversy, because that certainly wasn't my intention. I just knew that there were times where people would come in and there were guys who would talk to me, and, you know, people would start talking. Oh, she might like him. She might like the gossip and then gossip. And I told them, look, I think they're nice people, but this is what it is. And I wanted to put a stop to it. And I said, you know what? No, I'm kind of like, you know, I'm kind of asexual. Boom. And then you get this harassment bullshit going on. Okay? I don't want that. And I know there's good-looking men, there's good-looking women, there's all good-looking everyone. There's a lot of good-looking people, and yes, I do. Why do I like being around good-looking people? I like people who take pride in their appearance, who love clothes. I do, and I want to be around women who like makeup. I like makeup. I like women who want to wear nice clothes. It makes sense. These are our common interests, so you want to gravitate to those people. You know what I mean? Clothes are about expression, you know what I mean? Some funky, some whatever. You just kind of go with it, and that's who I'm into. I'm not into being somebody's wife and being a part of a lifestyle that I don't agree with. that I was traumatized by saying, oh, you can't work until unless you get married. And that fucking killed me. And then coming to the realization that my family was incestuous, or they were probably incest, what do you call it? Endorsers, enablers, or what do you want to call it? That threw me for a loop. Okay, so I went through hell. Okay, I went through hell. Mentally, it was like I was a mental wreck. Okay, and every day, like I said, is a struggle, but I'm getting better. Now, I hardly threw out names or anything. I don't even think I mentioned any names. Okay, I was just kind of like, I did talk about how they wanted to force me back into this relationship with my ex-husband, knowing that they have this particular lifestyle and stuff like that, when I'm completely opposed to it. But I literally, I don't want to remember those people, any of them. And I try every day to forget, and I'm doing pretty good. I really am. I'm like doing pretty good with that, because I don't, bring it up now. But I am saying that I do live my life as a result of what they've done. Like, I try to go online, like Facebook, and then I get all these people who want to be friends on Facebook, and I'm always thinking this is probably a result of their stalking of what happened. And it's like, I'm tired of that, because these people have created a problem to where, I want to be social, but then, I don't want to deal with their bullshit. I don't. I want a life that's distinctly apart from the shit that I had to deal with. I can't tell you, I can't use the word trauma enough, okay? But it was really bad for me. You know what I mean? And then you throw in the sex element and all this other stuff, and then all that is just too much, okay? Maria is asexual. It doesn't matter how people think that Maria is a nice looking woman for 50 years old. Yeah, for 50 years old, I think I'm pretty, I think I'm okay for 50 years old. Okay. And I would say that I attribute that to my upbeat outlook on life and my positive attitude on life. And I try to eat right, as much as I possibly can. And a lot of it is genetics, so I do the best I can on that. But but that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's for me. It's about self-love. Some people have, when they think, oh, a woman's taking care of herself, she must be in love. No, she's in love with her life, or who she is. She likes her things. These are the things she likes to surround herself with, And I think it bothers me when people try to associate or try to guess with what I do, especially the people who did what they did to me. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to go too deeply into that. But anyway, I wanted to give you that update. If you have any, suggestions, I know there's asexuality.org, but it's difficult, especially there's a lot of black, when it comes to black women, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about black women. They think that we're hypersexual, like we want to have sex all the time, and this is like another one of their stupid stereotypes that society has placed on us. So I would say, when coming out as an asexual person, I hate the word coming out too, but anyway, talking about being asexual as a black woman, people I would say in the black community that's kind of a weird thing, but it's just like a stereotype. But anyway, I did see a few other black asexual women who took care of themselves, who were talking about being asexual. And I think it's kind of important. Anybody can be asexual, but I think when a person's asexual and they take care of themselves, meaning like they care about clothes, they care about their makeup, they care about these are the things that they really like, and they choose not to be in a relationship, I think that's a strength to the asexual community. Now, I don't consider myself to be a part of the asexual community. I'm just basically saying is that why I say that is because a lot of times people will say, if a person's not good looking or doesn't take care of themselves, they might be saying that, they might be rolling their eyes okay, you're just saying that because you can't get somebody or something along those lines. But for people who obviously could get somebody, and to say, I'm asexual, this is not something that I stand for, sex is not, doesn't revolve around, my life doesn't revolve around sex, that's kind of wow, that's interesting. It is interesting to a certain degree, but it's also basically saying that it's okay to love yourself. It's okay to like things that for yourself and do things for yourself. It's okay to look good in the mirror and say, you know what, makes me feel good. I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for him her or anyone. It's about me. You know what I mean? And I think that's, I've always felt really empowered by that. I don't know much about asexuality. I just describe myself as one because obviously I describe myself as asexual because I am not. Do I think men are good looking? There are some good looking men. Do I want to have sex with them? No. I think women are good looking. Do I want to have sex with them? No. Some people don't like being touched. I don't like hugging a lot of people. Now, I'll hug my son all the time because that's a what do you call it? A motherly love towards her son. It's affectionate. It's like, like a little baby, or like when I think of like the love that I feel for my son, it's more like how like a girl will see a picture of a cartoon character that she loves and she's just like, oh, he's so cute. That's how I feel about my son. He's cute, but it's not sexual. It's just like, oh, because that's your baby, okay? Anybody who really loves their child, as a mother should, that's not sexual. That's normal, and it's a wonderful love, okay? So of course, I'm affectionate with my son. I hug him, tell him I love him all the time, that sort of thing, okay? But I don't, I'm just not like that. You know what I mean? And so, and I don't feel like it's something that I think people would recommend like a doctor or something if they felt as though it was affecting the quality of my life. And I don't believe that me not having an interest in sex is affecting the quality of my life. I don't feel like I need to go to the doctor and get it fixed because I don't care about it. You know what I mean? I would prefer to have, I like my life the way that it is. I would love to meet like other women and talk about different things and stuff like that. That's what I want. And not just any women. I want to talk to women who share our similar goals and life views. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? It's like I have the right to define my life, and I have the right to live my life the way that I want. And this is what I choose for myself. And, like I said, it's not that when I see good looking people, I take note of that. I do. I'm like, wow, they're good looking. You know what I mean? It's pleasant when you see somebody who's got nice clothes on, their hair is nice and shiny because they wash it. That's nice. That's nice to see. It's nice to see. But I mean, and then some people look like they're photogenic, or they could be in a magazine, or they could be a model. You know what I mean? And that's always something that you take note of. And I like seeing those kind of people. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that I get stirred up and I want to have sex with them. They're just people that I appreciate because they're works of art, in a way. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I just wanted to come up here and talk a little bit about what was going on in my mind. I'm dealing with it. I do deal with a lot of depression because of all of this. But you got to try. People have to try to pick themselves back up. And I hope that the right people come into my life. Because that's important. You know what I mean? That's important. And I know, like, you might meet like 100 people in your life. You're going to meet more than 100 people, but you know what I mean. And maybe one might be a decent person. And, I learned a lot from this gang stalking thing about the nature of humans. And I know, I do believe people are wicked. We live in a very wicked world where people have a very hard time understanding, like, what's right, what's wrong, what's moral, what's Christian. I mean, these people, whoa, some of these people, they scare me. They scare me with their inability to understand stuff and, their ignorance. You know what I mean? I'm just looking for the right people. And I have a right to be picky. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope we all have a good evening tonight. And I will be back with another video some other time later. And yes, you know what? I have also wanted to say that I have been working in PowerPoint. I did a little bit of work this weekend. I'm trying to start up my new channel. And I'm going to be doing a video on the paranormal. I'm talking about some of my psychic gifts that I have. And I'm going to be listing them. And I wanted to make this video like a PowerPoint presentation to be somewhat educational. Now, I do know in 2008, 2008, 2008 or 2009, okay, I think it was. It's when I started my old YouTube channel. And like I said, like within 2 weeks, I had over 2,000 subscribers, which that's pretty remarkable. Okay, so I would have done really good on YouTube had these people not sabotaged my life. And I was having like a good time on YouTube making videos. So I want to go back and start talking about the paranormal, my life, my experiences. I don't want to mention, the gang stalking, the human trafficking, whatever, the bullying, whatever, on the next channel, the new channel that I'm going to be opening. I decided to have a brand new channel separate from this particular channel. I don't want to go into all of that. I just want to talk about, psychic stuff, my psychic gifts, which I have quite a few actually. And then I will also talk about other topics relating to the paranormal. That will be like some historical figures, some people who belong to secret societies, which I do not, but there are a lot of people in history who actually belong to like what you call paranormal, occult orders of understanding, whatever. So I want to talk about those people. I want to talk about myths and, and talk about religion and other issues exclusively on this channel. But, there's times where, like, I get excited about videos, and then when I get home, like on the weekends, I can do a little bit, and then my mind starts thinking about the whole gang stalking trauma and thing like that. So I deal with a lot up here, and that stagnates a lot of my enthusiasm and stuff. So it's like I struggle sometimes to override those things, but it's something that I'm struggling to do, but I have to, because I want to go back to where it was when I left off. And as for my previous perps, it's like I'm not gonna like curse these people. I already said what I needed to say, but it's like this is my life. This is my life. This is who I am. Okay, I don't expect other people to like my life or value my life, but I do value my life, and I love my life, as simple as it may be. And I really don't appreciate, people trying to manipulate my life into something that I don't want to be. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of, especially married women, they think, well, I know there was a rumor, and I picked this up psychically, a rumor about me, well, number one, going back to my ex-husband, which I would die before I would do that. Number two, another rumor about me wanting to have a kid. I don't know why in the world somebody would say something that stupid. I'm 50 years old. I don't bring kids into this world, at this particular, I don't think it's a good idea. Now, if some people want to do that, that's your choice. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? These people think that, and that's another issue when you're an asexual person, like I said, they'll bully you. They forget that you're a human being. They try to put you to the test, and they whatever. Those aren't my goals in life. My goals, I was diverted from my goals and my plans in life, and a lot of those got wrecked, and a lot of those I can never go after, and you fucked it up, and that's just too bad. But what I can control in my life, these are the things I want. I have very little time left on this earth. Okay, I'm 50 years old already, and you've absorbed most of those years, and I think you're evil. I really do. I think you're fucking evil for doing that. But this is my life now. And so stay the fuck out of it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to stop talking about TIs, but I do want to say, I hope all TIs are doing well. I hope that you find some way out of the madness, okay? And as for me, in this whole asexual thing, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm asexual. I would prefer to have women friends. I would prefer to people stop talking about, she'll find someone someday and blah, 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 or trying to arrange me into a relationship or something like that. I don't want it. Especially a relationship that's shared with a group of people that I used to know. That's like a setup. Like you already are setting up a relationship that's going to fail, because they already know you, right? They won't tell you where the origins are, why they took interest in you. It's all a game. And it's like, they don't know right from wrong. They would actually think it's a moral issue it's a moral thing, or okay thing to do, when in fact it's not. You know what I mean? So I just want my life back, and I'm taking it back. You know what I mean? And like I said, don't push me anymore, because I can't stand your shit. I just can't. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope everyone has a good evening. I'll be back in the end of the video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.